Welcome to another episode of In the Nude. Today I want to talk about 5 things people don't talk about when they're about their healing journey. Okay. So this is just going to be me going off the cuff. 5 things that I wish that I had realized, known, or I wish people talked about to make them more normalized. One is when you start to heal your body, when you start healing your emotions and you're going through this process of regulating your nervous system, all of that, and your body starts feeling safe, you're going to get sick more. For most people, you're going to get sick more. Your body is finally safe. It's finally in a place where it can stop protecting you. It can take a break. It can. And as a result of it being able to let go of its tight stress, all of that, is it's going to start processing things that it's been suppressing and pushing down in your body in other ways. And so you're going to start getting sick more. And that can be frustrating. It can be irritating. But if you understand and conceptualize the fact that every time your body is getting sick, it's because your body is feeling safe. You could see it as a positive. Not that sickness is a positive, but that you feel safe enough and your body feels safe enough to allow you to actually process it. Have you ever known any CEOs of companies that have very stressful jobs? I have somebody in my life that has that. And every year they take off the weeks between Christmas and New Year's. And do you know what? The only time every year that they're extremely sick is when they take off. They actually loathe taking off vacation because every time that they do, they get sick. And it's because it's the only time frame their body can relax enough to be able to process it. So they just have all these particles that they're of sickness they've been exposed to, and they're shoving them at different places in your body, right? Think of it if you when you're a little kid, if your mom asked you to clean up and you shove everything into a closet, and you shove everything to a closet, you shove everything to a closet, you shove everything to a closet, and eventually there's going to be one time you open up the closet and it all falls out, right? That's what's happening to your body. It's when you're feeling safe, when you're feeling calm, you're feeling all of that, it's going to come up more. And when we change the narrative in our brain of this is a horrible, terrible thing to this is a gift I'm able to give my body, instead of having to store it and it be some type of major sickness or major disease later, I get to process these smaller sicknesses along the way. But having that that filter is important because it can be very frustrating if you've gone from a place of never being sick to all of a sudden being sick quite frequently. It's an adjustment. And I wish people talked about it more so you could have that expectation, that understanding that it's going to exist. Along the same lines as when you start trying to heal yourself, trying to go through this process of, you're going to have a lot more feelings. It's kind of do you know the process of making a caterpillar to a butterfly, right? You obviously know it goes into a chrysalis before it comes out, but did you know when it's in the chrysalis that it actually liquefies? As gross as that sounds. It literally stops being a caterpillar completely, breaks down to its cells, and then reconfigures. Okay? It gets and then becomes the butterfly. Okay? When we're in our healing process, sometimes we liquefy, right? We can feel so much worse after we start the process of healing that you have to be willing to get through the worse, the feeling extremely over emotional, feeling even further broken, feeling all of these you will feel there'll be a time frame of things getting worse before they start getting better. And that time frame of getting worse it's not a one size fits all. For me, mine was pretty long. Mine was pretty long of feeling worse. Mine was pretty long. So hopefully that's not the case. I've known other people where it wasn't super long. But just that process, it's gonna be there. And it's if you are feeling like I am irrationally emotional all of the time, or you're feeling all the more broken, or you're feeling all the more crying for no apparent reason when there's you don't know why, it's okay. You're not alone. It is a natural byproduct. Think of it like this. Again, that closet, Those are your feelings, right? You've been shoving them all in there, and now you've opened the door. Okay? And we're taking the stuff out of the closet, which means it's going to be a lot of overwhelm because you're having to deal with everything you didn't deal with before. It's going to feel a lot worse. It's going to feel a lot more chaotic. It's going to feel a lot more like, I am so broken. In that same marker, in that same understanding, you aren't broken. And while it can feel like truth to say that you are broken, you are not broken. Often the reason we feel like we're broken is because we are made to feel broken when we weren't perfect. We were made to feel broken by how we were communicated around and to. And we have this mentality often when we've had traumatic childhoods to, once you fix something, do you constantly look for the next problem? I'm guilty of that. Because we have this mentality that we have to fix all the things, and then if we fix all the things, we're going to be at this location of healed. That's number 3. Healed isn't a location. There isn't this like arrival of healed. Healing is a continuous journey. A continuous every day and falling in love with the journey. Every day waking up and, as I call it, looking in the mirror and seeing where you are and giving yourself grace and compassion to be where you are. Talking to yourself with love, observing what's there and saying, you know what, I feel like this is still a thing. This is still a thing we can tweak. I still see myself responding and coping with things codependently. I still see myself reaching out for other people for validation. It's all valid. It all makes sense. But it's letting go of this, you're not broken. Letting go of, we're going to have some place that we arrive, right? It sounds so nice to actually arrive. But think about every time you've ever arrived at finishing a project, fixing the thing. You immediately come up with a new thing, right? How long do you let yourself celebrate the fact you just finished? Not long. 2 minutes? 30 minutes? A day? Right? It's instead of constantly trying to get to that arrival, it's letting go of that feeling and just falling in love with the process of doing it. And it sounds like that would not be fun. It sounds like that's like defeating. But the more that you embrace it, the more beautiful it is. It's kind of like, okay, say you want to go on a hike, right? And your goal is to get up to this view. And you're like, man, I really want to see this view. So you take this whole time to get up there to get that view, right? And then you have to hike all the way back. Sure, the view is pretty. But what if you, instead of just like being so focused on getting there to get the view, you enjoyed all the process of getting there? You didn't like lessen the view when you got to where you were going, but you increased your enjoyment of the process of getting to the view, right? That's the same process of letting go of the idea of arrival to a healed. There's arrivals along the journey. There's like things where you're like, you've been working on something and you're like, man, I did it. I stopped myself from freaking out and being triggered and yelling at my kids. And I instead calmly took deep breaths. Like, that's huge. That's big. That's celebrating. That is like, you've got something. You have an arrival right there. But it's the journey of paying attention to the fact that before you get there, you took a deep breath before you yelled, right? Or after, where you're like, you start moving towards the next like tangible thing that you're trying to go to, which is like default mechanism being like more calm, more coming to the table with less control and more allowing them to be and guiding them instead of telling them, you know, whatever it is, right? My point is simply, if you stop holding on to the idea of healed being this place you're going to and healing being the journey that you're on, it can allow you to both get to those different like places where you have arrived, but also enjoy the process of getting there and getting to the next one. Something I really, really wish I knew is that not all therapists are made the same. If you have tried therapy and you felt like it was a waste of time and a waste of space, I want to definitively and arrogantly say you had a bad therapist. At least bad therapist for you. I have had over a dozen therapists in my journey. Probably, I don't even know how many, but more than a dozen. In that experience of talking to that many different therapists, which was a frustration, to be sure, I found two that were helpful. Therapy, where you're just talking about your problems and you're not making tangible movement when you have had trauma specifically. If you're a person who has CPTSD, or if you have PTSD, or if you have a significant amount of trauma in your life, talk therapy is not something that I would highly recommend, because when you talk about a problem, there is a catharsis to talking, right? But with that catharsis of talking about your problem, there is let's put it, say that your situation and your stress that you're feeling is like a pot of water with a lid on it, okay? And your pot of water is simmering. It's got a lid on it. And when you go to talk therapy, it's like taking the lid off and some of the steam gets out, right? There's an alleviation to that. It feels a little bit less stressful. But there's been no tangible change to what's going on. There's just been an observation about what's going on. Oh, there is this pot. It is on there. It is simmering. I don't like the fact it's simmering. That's the extent of what's happened in talk therapy. Because you can only conceptualize, you can only intellectualize and verbalize so much. Up here is not where the work is done. In the brain is not where the work is done. There's this entire mechanism of healing process where something is understood up here, like bowling, okay? We're gonna put this pot aside for a second. We're talking about bowling. Bowling is a concept I understand. I know exactly what my hand is supposed to hold. I know exactly how many steps I'm supposed to do. I know exactly how I'm supposed to pull my form back and release. I know I understand. I could draw you a diagram. I could instruct someone else on how to do the thing. But I can't get that mental understanding of it into my body and actually applying it. Could I do it if I practiced enough and cared enough? For sure. But that's not going to happen by me thinking about it more. It's not going to happen by me talking about it more. It's not going to happen by me visualizing it more. It's going to happen by me grabbing a ball and spending, unfortunately, large amounts of time that I have no interest in, practicing it over and over, tangibly moving my body, getting it so it has a natural feel to it. The same thing is true when it comes to therapy. Talking about it isn't going to change the pot. You want to change the pot? You're going to have to do things in therapy that adjusts the pot. For me, I did therapy called EMDR. This is essentially therapy that when we go through trauma, we have truths that we've come apart from ourselves, right? So say, for example, you were neglected by a parent. You're going to have, your takeaway from that's going to be slightly different than somebody else's, but most of the time it's going to make you feel less value. I'm not worth it. I'm not lovable. Lots of lack, right? There's these truths that we take away from somebody hurting us, whether that's by inaction or by action. We take these truths away and they become a part of how we view ourselves. EMDR helps you adjust those memories that you have that trigger that truth to be replaced with a different truth. I'm not lovable is replaced with, just because they couldn't love me doesn't mean I'm not lovable. I'm not worth it, just because they didn't give me energy and effort doesn't mean that I'm not worth the energy and effort, right? How you replace it is between you and your therapist and how you do that. But that's what you're doing. And you're doing tangible exercises, mental, emotional integrations into your body. It's not just talking. I've also done ART therapy, augmented reality therapy, right? It's not like drawing therapy. It's for if you have had extensive, intense trauma, ART therapy might be for you, okay? I did EMDR for 2 years, and it was a slow burn, but good, helpful. But ART therapy extremely helped with specific triggering problems that I had by dissipating them. There were certain particular things that for me were continuously something I hit my head against the wall on, in regards to viewing myself, in regards to day-to-day life. And ART therapy, augmented reality therapy, what it does is it essentially helps you decide how to view your past. And it's physically helping you go through and do that. But like an example of that is, okay, so 2 people can go through the exact same situation, and one person can find it traumatizing and another person can find it not traumatizing. And it's based on their worth, it's based on their interpretation of it, it's based on their takeaways from it, it's based on the truths that they view it, right? It's perspective and experience that makes a difference. The same thing is true about your past. How you view and interpret your past, how you recall your past, makes a difference on how your past impacts you, right? So for me, one of the exercises I did is in a time period where I did not have help, where I was neglected. I would replace those memories by me as an adult showing up for myself. That's the augmented reality, right? And me doing that doesn't change the past, but it changes how I can interpret the past. It changes the brain waves and the frequencies so that I know that right now, all the work that I'm doing, putting into my body and trying to help myself, that's a visual, tangible representation of me doing that for myself in that memory that is so hard for me. Okay? All that to say, not all therapists are the same. If you've had an experience where you felt like therapy was a waste of time, you probably didn't have a therapist that was right for you. You probably were trying to do talk therapy. A lot of people do talk therapy, and I'm telling you, it is literally like taking the pot off. It's not extremely helpful. If you're somebody who's very not aware of themselves, extremely not self-reflective, maybe talk therapy can be beneficial for you because it becomes this place where somebody else can identify the patterns that you're doing and you can't see them. But most of the time when somebody's been through the trauma, that's not going to be the path that's going to be extremely helpful, because you're just taking the lid off and still, oh look, it's boiling. I don't like that it's boiling, but it's still boiling, versus let's turn the heat down. We may not be able to take the pot off today, but we can turn it down 1 degree, right? So please, if you've had a bad experience with therapy, know that you may have to be like me and go through over a dozen therapists before you find one that can actually help you. That can be frustrating. It can be infuriating. It was for me. Recommendations from other people who are in similar situations is going to be the best path, in my experience, because the ways that I found therapists that were beneficial were not through trying to find one through my provider, not looking close to me, but was asking tangibly other people who are going through and have gone through similar processes. So somebody else who's gone through PTSD, who have you used? And while you may not be able to use them because you're friends with the person, that person can give you a recommendation. That therapist can give you a recommendation. That has been the fastest path. And yes, that can be even frustrating, but if you're talking to, it can be frustrating because you may not be a network for that person. It can be frustrating because you can't go in person and that's better for you, right? But having an effectual, put it this way, okay, a therapist who is helpful for you is someone who has to have been able to be in a place where they are being able to connect to what you're going through, being able to help you get through and in what you're going through, and they have to be in a place that they're emotionally regulated themselves. You don't want to be taught by the saying was that those who can't teach, right? That's not the person you need as a therapist. That person, a person who teaches because they can't do it, is not going to be an effectual therapist. It's also not going to be an effectual teacher, but we'll leave that alone. But you need someone who's been there, who's been in the trenches, who hasn't been regulated and then is regulated, who has gotten to some level of mastery of whatever it is you're trying to do that's ahead of you. They don't have to be severely ahead of you, but they need to be ahead of you. Because if they haven't come to that place, if they haven't worked through it, they're not going to be able to tangibly, trying to explain to somebody how to ride a bike when you've never ridden a bike. You may conceptualize what the process is because you've read about it, but there's a vast difference than being able to talk to somebody about the fear of falling, having fallen, and what it actually feels like in your body. That connection when somebody, like when you bend down to a kid who's just fallen off, you're like, man, that was really scary when I fell off, right? And you make that connection. The same thing is true with your therapist. If they haven't been through it and all they have is an intellectualization of it from a book that they've read, that's not going to integrate into your journey. There's a reason why people have specific modalities and specific things that they're good at, because, we aren't meant to help everybody. This video is not going to help a lot of people, even if they're in the same journey, because they don't learn this way, they don't feel this way, they find me annoying, any number of things. The same thing is true. It unfortunately means that you may have to test case, try different things to find a therapist that can actually help you. But please, if you have ever tried therapy and it felt like a waste of time, I'm going to definitively and arrogantly say you had a therapist that was bad for you. Maybe they weren't a bad therapist as a whole, though I have had some of those in my opinion. EMDR, ART therapy, super beneficial for if you have infused trauma. Just saying. The last thing that I wish I knew was that it's okay to be frustrated with all of the things. All of the things. But specifically, it's really okay to be frustrated with, you're going to come across memories that you didn't recall. You're going to come across truths that were integrated into your person that you didn't even desire to pull into your person, like truths that you tried to push away. Like, I was raised in a very patriarchal viewpoint that as a child I rejected, but even as I rejected it, I still accepted into my body and mentality by practically how I had to survive. I had to live it out. Ways that I had to, I'm still decompressing from. I'm still pulling out of me. And there's these deep-seated frustrations with the pain that you went through. It's okay to be frustrated. Deep-seated frustrations with the truth that you accepted even though you didn't want to. It's understandable to be frustrated. Your feelings aren't the problem. They're the fruit. Your feelings are a flag telling you something else is wrong, right? When you're feeling frustrated, it isn't because frustration is bad and that needs to go away. Your frustration, your anger is there because you're hurt or you're sad. And your hurt or you're sad is because you were hurt. You were neglected. You were told truths about yourself by somebody else's actions that you pulled into yourself. Those are the roots. Those are the things that need to be adjusted, right? Just because someone didn't show up for you, just because you haven't experienced someone loving you, doesn't mean that you are not lovable. That's a root. The painful root. It's a hard root to excavate, but the feeling themselves, they're not bad. They're telling you, they're a flag. They're saying, hey, look here. And it's okay. The process will be frustrating. The frustration is an okay thing for you to process and learn how to feel in your body and release and help in helpful ways. Whether that is diffusing, like pulling the lid off and then slowly lowering the heat, right? Or if it's something, you need something more, right? Like you have so much rage, maybe you need to go to kickboxing. Maybe you need to learn how to run. Maybe you need to go to the gym. Maybe you need to move your body, and that'll help. But it's okay to be frustrating. It will be frustrating. It's okay that it's frustrating. That frustration is actually a gift, even if it doesn't feel like it, because it's telling you, I know that I was worth more. I know that I was worth being loved, and I wasn't. I know that this wasn't right because I didn't deserve it. When we change how we view a thing, it changes everything. There's this picture I love where it looks like you're just circling. There's just this like spiral of circle, right? And it can feel that spiral, like that continuous, like just going around in circles is how you can feel when you're in a healing journey, when you're trying to face a problem, when you're trying to adjust things. It can feel like you're just spiraling, that you're just like nothing is changing. You're just sitting here, just hitting your head against the wall. And when you look at it from that perspective, that's completely fair interpretation. But if you take that same thing and you're looking down at this thing and you instead pull it up like this, and you see instead of just continuously being here, it's actually coming down like an actual funnel. You are making a difference. You are making a change. Sometimes we just have to switch our perspective to see that we've made a difference. It's one of the reasons why I think doing the exercise of how would I, if this situation happened 2 years ago, how would I have responded? How is this different? Sometimes looking back at who you were can help you see that you're not just hitting your head against the wall, that you are making changes. And the more we can acknowledge that we're making changes, tiny little ones. I took 2 deep breaths before I yelled. You took 2 deep breaths. That's amazing, right? The more we can celebrate and focus on the wins, the more we get that. So please, your feelings that you're having, all of them are a gift because they're a signal telling you where to look. They're a gift saying that you know in yourself that you are worth more, that you are lovable. And when we change our perspective on it, we change everything.